Hey, Shabbat. All right, all right. Having a little technical difficulty there, but I was trying to play a video of a person sharing a scripture, but it was timing out on me. It was a YouTube video that I really like. But welcome. I'm Garry B. Jr., everybody, and I'm excited to be here with you guys. Today we are going to be talking all about FreeShow and some other fun features. And let me know if you guys can hear me okay. Uh, let's see here. I'm hearing fine on my end, so I'm going to take these off. We got Paul with us. Paul, I'm not even going to act like I can pronounce your last name, but I get the same thing with my last name as well. So forgive me, buddy. Um, from Southeast Florida. Oh, wow. He asked, is there a way to add CCLI information to all songs, or if that has to be done for each song in the metadata section? That's a great question. I am not sure about that one, Paul. I will, let's pull it up real quick. I'm going to look at my screen here. And let's just do a blank slide here. All right. For the songs, I'm pulling up my songs now. Because I do believe you have to do it individually. What I'll say is, let me get back with you because I'm not going to act like I know exactly when I don't know. Get meta from the media content. So there's an option here. And let me share my screen with you guys real quick. I've got the screens set up all kinds of different ways all the time. All right. And so there is an option to, if you go to your, I got a song here, and when I do the option on the right side there, so if I go, let's go to another song. We'll drag this one into the show. Over here, there's this option for metadata, and there was a little arrow on the right side there, if you could see. And it popped up, and it gave me this option to put in the information, the CCLI information. And it says manage metadata. It says get meta from media content. You could turn that on. And let me ask you, have you tried doing that before? So if I click manage metadata, it gives me these options are applied globally. And so I can turn these off and on. And they're there. You can add more metadata if you wanted to, put in a special title or topic or whatnot, and you can add that in there. But from here, so if you go to any of your shows, you can go to the right side and you can do that. And then turn on this option that says get meta from the media content. And when you do that, it should drag in. If you do have CCLI information in that particular song, it should bring it in there for you, okay? Now, I'm saying that because, but I've never done it before myself, so forgive me if that doesn't work. But that's my best guess at doing that. I don't do much with songs for online ministry stuff. I do mostly is teaching and preaching and discussion style stuff. So music-wise, the other part of it is I'm not a musician in any way. So forgive me. I don't know much about music. But a lot of folks do. So this is a great community of people that will help give you some insight on that. So that would be my first step to consider. And then you said you're also having trouble getting that template to show the information even when you've entered the metadata. Which template are you talking about? Trouble getting the template to show the information even when I've entered the metadata. Let me know which template you're talking about there. And I'm guessing it has to do with the oh, I think you're talking about the one in the templates that's called meta or something like that. Let's see here. Yeah, the metadata template. Let me see if is it under songs? I got the message template. I don't even think I have mine. I might have deleted mine at some point. Let's see. I'm just looking to see where it might be. Yeah, I don't even have mine in there. But yeah, that's a good question. Like I said, so over here, this is what the default looks like. When I hit this little arrow, it pops up and I got get meta from the media content. If I turn it off, it gives you these options here. And so to show that, you can do a couple of different things. You can actually, let's see, if I go to edit, there's an option here as well under slides that, let's see, a slide template, select slide template. There's an option on some slide. Oh, maybe it's on the templates. Let me see where I saw that at. If I were to edit a template, I saw something that said change the first slide to be something in particular. Yeah, custom template on the first. So you can actually have something like that to where if you do use a certain template, you can make the first slide have a customized template that would have that metadata, for example, if you wanted to. So that would be another option to consider. He said, ideally, the template allows you to only post meta info on the first and last slides of each song. Yeah, that makes sense. And so I would apply it to that particular template by going over to the slide option and then making or choosing the template that has that CCLI information on it. Okay, and that's just going from your template settings or edit page and then over to the right under slides, and you'll see an option to customize the template on the first. Okay, and that's just on that first slide. Okay, hopefully that helps you, buddy. As we jump into today, what I wanted to talk about was video next to scripture review. So I made a video, I think it was Tuesday or Wednesday, about adding video next to your scriptures, and someone had asked a question about how to do that. And I kind of created something for it in terms of templates. And let's see here. If you got to see that, let me know. But it was something that looked like this. And let me pull it up real quick. I made two of them. So this is what it looked like in general, to where people could have their camera. So let's say you had, and this is my FaceTime camera showing up here. So it's a little bit off center. There we go. But the idea was to have this feed of video next to scripture, and I got the scripture super big, right? And I was like, when I looked back on it, I was like, I would change that. So let's change, if we edit that and we make this text here, I wouldn't make it 100. I would probably make it somewhere around 50, and then I would make this be somewhere around 30 or 40 or something along those lines, so it's not overwhelming. All right, so it'll show up something like that, a little bit more easy on the eye. All right. But yeah, so this is an option. And then what I did too is I made my video not be widescreen. I actually did it to fill that box that I made. But looking at it again, I would probably change that template to where it would actually be widescreen. So I would actually right click and I would edit. And I'm asking you guys because I want to get your feedback, because what I'll do is I'll upload this as a part of a media toolkit on my site, but I want to find out what you all's thoughts are. Do you think you prefer it to be this box style video, or do you prefer for it to be more of a contained video like that, and we would make this particular video box be widescreen? I'm more prone to like widescreen. I'm a video guy myself in terms of my background. And then what I would probably do is have maybe some kind of context under the video, maybe, or just center the video up like that. And I probably wouldn't have these be in a box. I would probably do the box to not have any border at all. So I would probably take the border off and then have this be slimmer to fit, and then no corner radius. Well, the corner radius wouldn't be necessary except for the fact that it's got that background piece to it, right? And so I would do that, and then I would make this one be no background as well. And then going back to it, it would kind of look different. It would give it to me, it's a cleaner look. And so it'll look something like that. And you could have, I would probably take the white box. Well, I like the white box around the video, but you would have your, your service or whatever on the side here, and then the context of your scriptures with the reference or slides, and or your particular song lyrics or something like that to be there. And that would be, to me, that's a pretty cool look. I would probably say for the camera with the slides, I've got a title slide option. So I would duplicate that and I'll make one that's just one just for lyrics, right? That doesn't necessarily have a title. So let's rename this one camera and lyrics. And so that one goes up here. So I'm gonna right click and edit that one. And this one I would probably have with no title slide. I would do the same thing where I will make it contain, we'll make it be as wide as we can. And so this, I would probably make it bigger. And this one, on this side, I would probably make it a little bit smaller to kind of keep that video prominent and in the forefront. And then make them the same height as best I can. But to me, it was about, well, what is it that is the goal, right? And I think from my standpoint, the goal would be to have this depiction of it side by side and also keeping it as clean as possible without there being any distractions. And so I wouldn't necessarily keep the white box around it or any of that stuff, personal preference wise. And then you could have that clean look along with still having space for your scriptures to be there, and having that little black box around it, for example. And so I would probably go with something like this as the template, and it would be like that, right? And so you can have a cool background behind it. You can make the background whatever you want. These are some of my video backgrounds that I've got going on. And I like the way that looks and I like the way that feels, to where people can focus on the video and the actual reference of the scriptures next to it. So that would probably be it. Let me know you guys' thoughts or feedback, those who are joining in with us. What do you think about having your videos next to your words, if at all, right? Is that something that you would want in a template available on my site to be able to use in FreeShow, so that you can easily maneuver and make this this setup pretty quick and easy, right? And so that would be my thoughts with it, is that it's pretty simple to do as long as you have a camera connected to your computer. You would make your template however you want to. So some of you might want your video to be across the top, right? You could do that. So we can do duplicate here, and this is with lyrics, and we'll say, let's rename this one and call it lyrics top. And if I were to do something like that, I would probably put the video on top. But you don't typically see that. You don't typically see the lyrics separate from the screen. If they're going to do something like this, they would probably just put it on the screen and not cut into the video. But it's an option, right? It's something to consider. Let's see. I think the biggest benefit of this is that you would be able to have a fun background behind it, which would be kind of cool. And so if I did one like that and I set it up, let's pull it up. Let's do that. And so it would look something like that. So you can have that background active behind it. I like that idea. And so I wouldn't mind something like that, just because it gives you that that enclosure. You can put a custom background to it that's related to the theme of your ministry. You could do all kind of stuff with this background. It doesn't have to be a video background, doesn't have to be a motion background at all. It could literally be a design template idea of whatnot that you could use. So there's some options there when it comes to that. That's something that I'll probably be releasing on on my site. I'm not sure if the template will carry over well because my guess is that it should give you the box for the video, and you would have to select the video feed from your interface card that you've got connected to your computer would be the idea. All right. The next thing we were talking about was using video, and I wanted to review that because what I ran into was I was trying to upload or add an MO or use an MOV video, a .mov in FreeShow, and I'm guessing there was some text somewhere. I didn't even pay attention. There's probably some text that says it's best to use MP4, which that makes a lot of sense because that's what works best, basically. But what I also wanted to highlight were some of those features of the new media updates. When it comes to using your media now, you've got a lot of options. What's going on, Mr. Arnell Scott? Good to see you on, man. Where you from? Tell me your city or the country you're from. If it's outside the United States or the state, like I said, you don't have to be specific, but I'd love to hear where everybody's from. We have Paul on from Florida. We've had folks on here from Romania. I can look at my Google geography stuff and I can see some different things. I've seen countries that I can't pronounce, but we've got almost every continent except the Arctics involved in terms of being able to be equipped with some of the content that we're creating. So I'm excited about that. I love to get the feedback. The questions are great for this. I believe it's a great program. Using FreeShow is something that I'm using as a user. And I've been in contact with the team at FreeShow. It's a great team, great developers, great support team and things like that. So I love to work with them in terms of just figuring out ways that I can add to the community by making videos and really helping FreeShow's map expand because they were already on the map. That's how I found them. So I'm not putting them on the map, but at the same time, I really love the idea of what they're doing. And I'm just surprised at what they can do in making this product, this program free. All right. So Arnell from Ohio. All right. Church out of Bedford, Ohio. Excellent. Is that northern or southern Ohio? I don't know where Bedford is. I'm originally from Kansas City, so I'm not too far, I guess, originally, and then now down the Georgia, Atlanta area. So, but a couple cool features when it comes to using video involve being able to make the video show up. And so one of the things is that if you right click on a video that is a YouTube video and you say add it to a project, let's see what happened here. When I click it, it comes up here and then you hit the play button. It comes up over that. I've been having some issues with it here lately, so let's see what it does. And I think it has to do with just me live streaming, but I don't know. Not sure if it's acting up internet-wise or if it's a computer issue. But typically what happened is it should show up over the slides. So it did cover, there you go. It shows up over your slides. It makes your slides go away. That's really all I wanted to show. I'm not even going to play the video. But that's something that is really cool is that when you do play a YouTube video, it won't show up in the background. It'll actually show up as a main video, which is important. All right, so I'm going to remove that. Don't need it. I'm going to go back to my slides. All right. And so that's one of the features. Now, let's say you've got a video that you've already got on your computer. Oh, so Northern Ohio. Okay, excellent. Let's see here. Paul says, Michael Bird is a good friend of mine and put me on FreeShow and the rest of the church apps. Yeah, Mike is the man. That is excellent to hear, man. Yeah, he's the church apps proponent. He's the master of it all. So he's invited me to, we've had some conversations about church apps. And for those who don't know, FreeShow is a part of a conglomerate of apps, as best I can describe it. And the church apps platform provides a lot of free services, which are really cool. I grew up in smaller churches, so a lot of the things he was talking about with those apps, I was like, I've never used anything like that or seen that be used, like church management systems and membership things and all kinds of cool stuff and websites and all kinds of fun stuff. So those things are excellent, and FreeShow is just one piece of the pie that I really latched on to because I've always been the media guy. In every ministry I've been a part of, I'm the media guy. And I love it. I love technology. I love to grow and understand technology and the word, right? So they're not one or the other. It's both and for me. And so, yeah, that's excellent. Michael Bird is a great guy. And so, yeah, I'm glad to hear that you got all the church apps. I've not dove into all of them yet, but he was asking me, hey, do you want to look at all of them? I'm like, yeah, I will at some point. I just got to figure out the best way to engage with it because I don't really have a grid for it. but my background being in technology and media, I've got a real clear grid for FreeShow in terms of what it does and how it works and how that looks from a simplistic standpoint of dealing with media on a day-to-day basis and working on a week-to-week basis for most churches. And so that's where I've kind of focused in on. So that's excellent. That's excellent that you know, Mike. The idea of using video now, when you go into FreeShow and you go to your media bin and you've got a video you want to play, typically it would reflect on videos that are like not background videos, right? So you want to make sure that this is the case. So the default is still going to be that they play in the background, all right? But if I go to this has got some videos in it. And I was doing a test with showing the different type of codecs that you can use. And so if you go back and you can look at that video about using videos in FreeShow, and the H.265 codec is a high efficiency codec, and it allows you to save space. And some of you all probably already know that. I'm curious, does anybody on that's a part of this community, does anybody have a video background? I know you guys are serving in your ministries in some form of capacity dealing with media. Does anybody have specifically a video background where they use video for work, or you guys use cameras at your church or your ministry and you're comfortable with it, or is that something you want to learn about? Because I know for me, I got a strong background in using video because that's what I've been doing for the past 10 years is making videos and serving in that way. So I'm going to engage and infuse that somehow, but I'm curious where the audience is when it comes to their understanding of video, because that has a that highly influences how I approach the video portion with this channel. All right. But I've got these MP4 videos, and what I can do is I can right click on the video and select edit. And you got this option called type. And this is the bread and butter of it all, is that you can make the type be a background or a foreground video. Well, a video that's actually showing like a film, those would always, you want to make those be a foreground video, right? And so when you go back to your media, you're going to notice that it'll have this little speaker bullhorn looking icon. I call it an audio icon, but it allows it to be known that that's going to play in the foreground. All right. And this is a clip from The Chosen, but it allows you to know that that's going to be played in the foreground, meaning it's going to clear out any text that you have on your slide, or any content that you have on that particular slide. Everything will be going away, and this video will take over the particular screen. All right. And so Arnell is saying that that's an area he can grow in when it comes to video. Excellent, excellent. I think for me, when I think about video in terms of working with cameras, right? The big thing about it was when COVID hit, was that 6 years ago now, 7 years, 5 years ago, I guess, I don't know. That was a big turning point for the ministries I was a part of in terms of how small they were, because for so long we had been so content with just working with those that showed up in attendance and making sure the sound system was right. And we didn't even use cameras in most of the ministries I was a part of until COVID hit. And there was this great need to make sure that we could stream and connect with our audience that didn't feel safe coming into the building for ministry. And so at that point, it was a big shift for a lot of smaller churches. Bigger churches maybe streamed online already, not a big deal for them. But for the smaller ministries, I noticed that was a very weak point. And you're not alone in that, or now that there were a lot of ministry volunteers that was like, I don't do anything with cameras. I was, the way I became a volunteer, for me, it was purely by accident and by need. It was just, hey, we need somebody to help out with the sound because the sound person's not here. Can you help? And I'm like, I guess I don't know how to use a soundboard. This was, I don't know, that was probably 20 years ago now, maybe 25 years ago. I'm not sure. But it was a crazy situation. And from that point on, the cool thing was the pastor had a production company. So he was very strong in working with media, working with soundboards, and he's a musician and a singer and all this. He led choirs and all kinds of cool stuff. So he had a real strong background in the technology, right? So he taught me a lot about how to use the soundboard and how to manage the faders and how to manage different inputs and different outputs and the monitors and all that stuff. And I'm like, I was eyes wide open, like, I don't know what I'm looking at. It's a bunch of knobs here. And now it all makes sense to me, right? So I love it now. But the way I became a volunteer was no clue what was going on. I just was a willing and able body to help out as best I could. So that's something that when it comes to cameras now, that ministry, for example, They use, I think last time I saw them, they were using cell phones, multiple different camera angles with cell phones. A lot of people are using Switcher Studio in that capacity. They were using something like Switcher if it wasn't Switcher because they had access to cell phones, which is great. They didn't have to invest in new cameras or bigger cameras that are probably even more difficult to understand and navigate, but everybody knew how to manage a phone. And so they have volunteers that are managing phones for their live stream and for their cameras in service, right? Paul's saying we stream our Sunday service using OBS platform, but beyond that, we certainly aren't all that advanced, okay? And another ministry I worked with, OBS is king, right? I love OBS because it is so flexible. It reminds me of FreeShow. They both are open source, which is great. But OBS is one of those things. It's like, I can't believe this is free type situation still, right? It's like, wow, I can do all this and make this work and send the signal out and dictate where it goes and flip, switch the scenes and all this kind of stuff. And so OBS is another one of those particular programs that I'm looking forward to diving into on this particular channel, because my goal is to help you all become the ultimate media volunteers in your ministries, and even helping other ministries that are nearby, right? To say, hey, I can help you better equip your team to do these kind of things, because that's my role now as a consultant, is that I literally help media ministries grow. I help media ministries be more confident and understanding what they're doing, right? Understanding what's available to them. That's the biggest thing, is that a lot of times we get into this and we don't even know what's available. And so we can use the assistance and help from someone else to understand how to do that. All right. Let's go into the slideshow. You guys are watching The Chosen probably. Y'all probably not even paying attention to me. No, I was kidding. But so when we got the video, that option to make it a foreground option is really cool, because it gives you that flexibility, that much more flexibility to dictate how your video is going to show real time without having to click multiple buttons while it's trying to get started. You literally can click that video one time and it'll start to play in the foreground immediately. So if I click on Nicodemus down here, since I clicked it, it just starts to play in the foreground, right? It doesn't hinder. I don't have to clear the slides. I don't have to clear the overlays and all that kind of stuff. Now, we did test it out in that video. Using overlays, it will not remove any overlays that you have. And so let me take that off because it was playing so you guys could hear that. But it won't remove any overlays that you have if you do make your videos be in the foreground. And I'm going to mute my computer line for now just to make sure that doesn't interfere with you guys. All right, so that's one thing. Understanding that is a big deal when it comes to FreeShow, because that's a great upgrade in this 1.3.9. If you haven't gotten the 3.9 update, make sure to get it, because it is really cool in that way. Some of you, so Paul and Arnell are active right now. Those who have joined us are actively on. Let me know if you have, or if you are familiar with video. What type of video editor have you ever used? And I'm going to put into the chat the one that I use, and I'm very comfortable with video and video editing, just because that's what I've been doing for the past 10 years, is making videos for organizations, for ministries, small businesses, and things like that. And so I'm comfortable with editing. DaVinci Resolve is a really cool program too. And I'm prone, if you guys haven't noticed, I'm prone to using programs that are free, right? And so you can literally download DaVinci Resolve, which is a top level video editing software that is used in Hollywood and big films, small films, all over. And you can download it completely free, right? And they have a version of it that works completely free with pretty much every feature you need to edit a video. Now, it does have an upgrade option, and you can pay like $300 US, and you can get access to some upgraded features when it comes to like sound isolation, voice isolation, and stuff like that. Transcription services are included in that paid upgrade, and then some other ways that you can do some cutting out of people and special effect type stuff, right? But DaVinci Resolve is really cool. Paul says he uses LumaFusion. It's pretty simple, which is good for him. Now, LumaFusion, I've heard of that. Let me see. Is it web-based only? Let me see. Is it professional grade multi-track video editing app designed for mobile and tablet? Okay. So touch first interface with powerful video editing. Excellent, excellent. And that's the biggest thing to me. So this is actually an app, which is really cool. I'm not good at using apps. So I would probably be horrible with LumaFusion just because I'm not comfortable with it, because I've grown accustomed to using um, video-based computer-based video editors. I started out using iMovie on a Mac computer. Me and my wife had just got some not iMacs, but Apple MacBooks. That back in the day, back in 2006, they were black and white. There was a white version my wife really liked, and I had a black one that I really liked. And we had those, and that was the first time I'd ever had a Macintosh computer or Apple computer, and it came with a video editor, and I was blown away, and I started using it, and that was when I really took to video editing quite a bit, to where it started making me think different in the way that I shoot video, because at that time I didn't own a camera, but it made me think about it in terms of borrowing friends' camcorders and stuff like that. We would make videos, and I had an idea of what editing could look like, and so I figured out how to shoot videos a lot easier from that standpoint. But iMovie was what I started with, and they still have it today, but it's a lot different than what it used to be. It used to be a really cool interface, very much more professional than it is now, which was important for me. Let's see here. Arnell said he's tried CapCut, and the learning curve is huge, so it's been hard to grasp how to use it. So, Arnell, when you say the learning curve, is it just getting into video in general, or are you coming from another program when you say that learning curve? What what's the curve you're getting over? Is it just trying to learn and understand how to edit video, period, or coming from another program and using CapCut? Because I can say switching to video programs is difficult. There's a big learning curve there, because I did play with CapCut after using Adobe Premiere for years. I use now DaVinci Resolve. I've been using that for years, probably at least 3 years. And I just tried it out because I was paying for Adobe Premiere, and I just didn't like how much it was crashing on my computer. It just wasn't as reliable. This was 4 or 5 years ago. And now I'm sure it's a lot better, but I just didn't like the interface and how it just, DaVinci Resolve was so much easier to manage and navigate, right? And they actually have an app. So they do have a touch interface, kind of like what Paul was talking about with LumaFusion. DaVinci makes an app that you can use and edit on an iPad, which is really cool. I never use it because, like I said, I'm not that good with apps. But Paul said it works with both on his MacBook and his iPad. That's very cool. Very cool. That's kind of what I like about DaVinci Resolve, except I just don't use the app version at all. But they do have a version for that. But they call it the what do they call it? The cut page, right? To where it's like real quick and easy to really navigate. Arnell says the underwing terminology, which function does what, things of that nature. Okay, just a general understanding of it going into video editing, period. That's something that I like the idea of approaching it with FreeShow. Approaching it as a beginner is very different than approaching it with a background, right? And so what I like to do as a trainer, I love to approach things from a beginner level and then work my way up. And that's kind of what happened with FreeShow, because I literally was a beginner. I just started using FreeShow in December, and I really enjoyed it. And I started finding things. I was like, oh, wow, I didn't know it could do that. I didn't know it could do that. And I was looking for videos on how to do it, and nobody had a video about it. And so I was like, well, let me start a channel to let people know that you can do this. And my very first video was how to edit photos on FreeShow, because I didn't know that you could put filters on your photos. And it was like, what? And it blew me away to put on your background pictures and stuff like that. And even your videos, the same filters options. And so that was really what started this channel with FreeShow being at the forefront of it, was just understanding that there are features there that nobody was talking about. And I wanted to bring those things to the forefront so people could talk about them and just get comfortable with it from a beginner level. That was me, because I was coming from OpenLP at the time, and I loved it. It's real simple to use, kind of like what you guys are talking about for video editing. OpenLP is that way with scriptures and lyrics. To me, I liked it. It was something I would use with other ministries. I would equip them to learn how to use that. But now FreeShow has kind of taken the lead on that, to where my encouragement, and any ministry I've worked with that actually has used OpenLP and I showed them FreeShow, they immediately say, we want to start using FreeShow right now, right? And so that's something that was encouraging, because I really see the value in it as well, and I enjoy it. But the FreeShow stuff, starting from the beginner level, today I want to introduce some things when we talk about FreeShow. Is as we grow together, there's going to be this increase in our knowledge and our understanding of it, and we're going to start doing some more advanced things. And those advanced things are not necessarily requirements for you to think about, or to implement, I should say, but they definitely are things to think about, because one of the things I love about media, whether it's in ministry or in business or whatever it is it is always evolving, right? And I say media technology is always evolving. And in FreeShow, they keep it up to date really well to where there's always these new features and facets of features and things like that that can um, make our workflow a lot easier if we understand it. And my goal is to bring some understanding. And thanks, Arnell, for saying that you enjoy the content. Saying that you said you're the only one teaching free show. And that's funny because I like to look at free show videos. I was just looking at a video yesterday, I think, and I sent a link to somebody in the chat or in the questions or comments or whatever in one of the videos I made because they had a question and I found the answer from somebody else's video. So other people are doing it and they kind of more doing like these intro videos. And I'm not a YouTuber, so I'm not. I don't know if I've ever asked anybody to subscribe or to like a video. I don't know. That's not my mindset when it comes to doing this. My mindset is really to equip people, and if it makes sense, then it makes sense. And if you're looking for it, you're going to find it. And that's my goal. Is that if you're looking for how to use FreeShow, I expect you to find my videos. And like you said, hopefully you can be encouraged to understand it better and to implement it. That's the goal. Is hey, I found this new thing. How do I make it work? And I believe that's what a lot of things as media volunteers, we want to use technology a lot. It's always evolving, but there's this curve that you talked about that we got to get over. And so with cameras, there's a learning curve. With video editing, there's a learning curve. With presentation software, there's a learning curve. How do we get over that curve? And that's where I want to help fill those gaps when it comes to equipping media volunteers in ministries, especially. But as a media consultant, I help people in nonprofits or in small businesses all the time with making videos and or editing videos or rolling out their equipment or whatever it may be. So if you guys have those kind of questions and you want some one-on-one coaching or training, you can go to my website. You can sign up anytime. Usually my hours are usually during the day, but you can send me an email and say, hey, Gary, I really need an evening session or something like that. Let me know. We can make that work as well. But when it comes to using these features, the reason why I'm introducing the video stuff is because with these video features, I was making these videos and editing these videos so that I can make them play better in FreeShow. And so that's why I brought up the idea of video editors and things like that. All right. Now, the other part of this is the Bible collections styles feature that we had, right? And so this Bible collections feature is really cool because, let me pull it up here, just the note. With the Bible collection styles, what we can do is we can literally, first of all, does anybody have multiple languages? You guys all said you're from the United States, so Florida and Ohio is not, I know for me, the ministries I was a part of in Kansas City locally, we didn't have multiple languages shown in our presentation, but we've got a lot of people from all over the world joining in and learning FreeShow. That's one of my favorite things about it is that this is international because it's free for one, and it also supports those multiple languages. Unbelievable. And that whole Bible collection styles things, if you use multiple Bibles, right? Sometimes some pastors I work with want to show two versions of the Bible at the same time. And I didn't know how to do that with OpenLP at all. And it may be able to do that. I'm just not well versed with it anymore just because it's been so long since I've used it. But with this setup and this feature, it's really cool because if you go to your scriptures, and for me, I've got those downloads on my website for the English Bibles, right? I don't know what other. I mean, there's a lot of ways you can find Bibles. I just did some searching on the internet and found those Bibles, and made them available just free, just like I found them. So you can go to my website if you don't have a number of English Bibles that you would like to use. You can definitely go there and download some. But I've got, for example, the New Living and the New King James Version, right? If I go to, let's see, I got the collection here with both of those versions of the Bible. And so I can click on that, and it's showing this overlap because I don't have the proper template for it. So this little preview window is really cool for your scriptures because I got two scriptures that overlap in there. So you would change your template down here. So you would go down and you would pick a template that supports two scriptures. So I would go down here and okay, now I got two Bible versions. Now they're showing up. They're in line. They're working properly. And you would have to manage that as you flip through your scriptures real time, right? For me, the main thing is how can we make this simplified? And this whole collection style thing does just that. And so when you go to your settings now, you can go to your styles, and I made one called, I got a camera and sermon, but on my default, let me see. I don't think I made that's just the default for that. But for this, let's go to my default style that I've got here. That's active on my primary output. But if I select an option to override scripture with a template, you can select here, and you can pick an override, right? So whenever you're using that style for that output, right, which is something you would assign ahead of time, it's set it and forget it type situation. But now you don't have to keep switching styles with an action is what we were doing in the past. You can literally apply multiple styles in one style, if that makes sense. So you can apply multiple overrides into one style. So now they're automatically switching without you having to change the style. It's literally built into the style. So right now the default for one verse is an option. That's what's selected here. So what's my default for one verse? If I scroll down, there's nothing that's selected. So I could say, okay, my default could be this one. This called Scripture Big is what I called it. There's another one this should just be called Scripture. I can do Scripture Yellow if I wanted to. I've got all these different ones with one version. So this is one here that's just Scripture. So I might say that's my default for that. Okay, so my override Scripture with template, it's set for my slides. Anytime I show a one verse scripture, I say one verse, one Bible scripture. So let's go to just New Living. All right. And let's go to something I was reading here. Leviticus 20, I believe. Let's see here. So when I click this, it automatically changes to the scripture. When I double click it, it brings it up and it makes that show up, okay, with that default. But if I were to go to, let's say here, we've got it showing up and it's got the 2 version. It automatically updates there, right? If I were to go to a Bible with 3 different Bibles, it'll show up here, right? And so FreeShow does good with doing that, but you can literally customize these and then set those, right? And so if you go back in that video I uploaded, what I highlighted was you can click this override scripture again, and you can literally pick different defaults for, let's say, the 2 Bible scriptures. You can literally change that default to be something totally different than just the default, right? So you can make it be the scripture 2, but maybe you want it to be a lower thirds, right? So you say, okay, I want it to be lower thirds with black and gray. And this is another template download you can find on my website. It's the Media Toolkit, completely free for you to download those lower thirds with 2 Bible versions available, right? And so now I've got a default for one. If I scroll down, you'll see it's highlighted here in blue. I've got a default for 2. If I click on 2, you'll scroll down and you'll see it's highlighted here. And then I want to change and make a default for 3 verses. Okay. Right now it's just set to the default, which is that the scripture 3, right? Which is built in by design in FreeShow. But if I go down and I pick the one that I made that's fully colored, let's say fully colored, it's colorful, right? It's 3 in color. All right, that's there. So now when I go back to my show and I pick another verse, check out what happens. It puts those different colors on it because my default for my override, I should say, for my default style changes it to where when I do 3 scriptures, even though it's showing up here plain black and white with scripture 3, my override is set. But when I go to scriptures with two Bibles, it goes back to the plain one that I've got set as well. But you can do that now, and it's all built in real time. So you can literally customize those. And this background looks really cool with that, with those colors. I never saw it. I always saw with the black background with no background, but I really like that feel. That's really cool. I like it's kind of inviting. It reminds me of a child. Like I'm childlike in the way I think, and I like the way that looks and feels. It feels fun, right? But yeah, I like that. But that's not. Look, I gotta make some notes on these different templates that we can include. I don't know if you guys like them, but I like that one. Let's see here. So we talked about adding the camera and verse templates, and then I'm gonna add in colors for scriptures. I just think it would be fun. Let me know if that's something that you guys would be open to or interested in, because I know a lot of the ministries I was a part of, they just use a black background, to be honest. They just use a plain black background with the verses big, right? And that's something that I personally am okay with. I actually prefer that as well. But when you start going to and seeing other ministries, even online and things like that, they'll use some fun, motion backgrounds and things like that, like this one here, which is really cool. But the goal is to make sure the truth is being seen and visible. And so as long as it's not distracting or disturbing or to where people can see it clearly, I'm all for it. And this is something that I believe people can see clearly, especially if it's on a big enough screen and they can literally keep up with their color. That's what I like about it. The connotation of, okay, I'm reading the green verses. Someone else might be saying, I'm reading the red verses because that's their language. And then somebody else might say, I'm reading the blue verses because that's my preferred version of the Bible. And so you can kind of keep up with it that way if you use multiple different Bible versions. All right. And so that's the Bible collection styles. Check out the video, go in depth with that as well. Just got released this week. And then the text variables. Now, this one was interesting because John, it's our friend from, I think he's from Romania, was asking about this on one of our FreeShow Fridays a while back, or just in chat, or just in our conversations through comments and things like that. And he was asking about how can he make notes, right? Like how can he post a message to the people on stage, whether it's the pastor, the worship leaders, the announcements people, whoever may be making those announcements, an assistant pastor or whoever else it may be. How can you communicate with them to where nobody else can see it, and it's on this stage display that's usually in the back of the building or on the ground level on the stage where people can look down and see it, or I've seen it in some churches on the front row, angled up at the actual speakers and the stage, so they're the only ones that literally can see that. And this is a really cool feature that I found out. Like I said, I'm not the only one teaching about FreeShow. There's another guy, I cannot remember his name, but he speaks another language, right? And this is the challenge I ran into when I first started trying to learn about FreeShow. This guy had a bunch of videos out about FreeShow. The challenge was they were not in English, and I didn't understand what he was saying, so it was hard for me to keep up. And that was another thing that kind of spurred me to really be engaged and interested in trying to make this work, to where people that speak primarily English could keep up with ways to use FreeShow as well, right? So the thing that I love is that he showed a way to use your functions, right? So I'm gonna make a variable. So we've got in our functions, we got actions, timers, and variables, and triggers, right? The variables are really cool. So I'm gonna stay with the variables for now. We're gonna do a new variable down at the very bottom. We're gonna call it a text variable. We're gonna call this special notes, okay? So these special notes are what we're gonna use to make our special notes to the stage. All right, so I'm gonna hit enter. It locks it in. I can close that out. And now I got this special notes, and there's no, nothing typed in there right now. So I'm gonna say special notes. This is going to be what John was running to was reminding. I'm gonna say, don't forget about. I'm gonna make this all caps. I'm gonna say, don't forget about offering. Have you guys run into that at your church or your ministry, where the leaders forget to take up the offering? I've been in a couple of them where that was the case, and we would have to remind. I would wave my hand in the back to the pastor, hey, don't forget about the offering. And they would ask me to help them remind them. So that was the main reason. All right. And so we've added this variable, and I can change this variable to whatever I want whenever I want to by just going into the functions, going to variables, and you can type in whatever you want, just like we just did. All right. Now let's go up to stage. All right. So I've got a bunch of different stage displays. I've got this one here. I got a blank one here. I've got one here. And this one has the current slide. And let's say this is next slide. Oh, that's for what I'm doing. So the next thing I'm gonna talk about is Bit Focus Companion. But I want to put I'm gonna put some notes on this one. This is my default. So let's go down, put my special notes in there. So at the very bottom of your stage display items, okay, when you go to stage, you can add variables. And the variables, before I knew what variables were, that was me up until probably 2 weeks ago. I didn't know what the variables did. They just didn't make sense to me. But now they make a lot of sense, but I have to set them ahead of time, and then I can refer back to them. And so I'm going to go to this special notes variable. When I click on it, it shows up. Oh, let me pull this back over. I dragged the wrong one. So I click on that, and it pops up our message because that's the message that I put in there. So I can make it be able to fit in there. That's the first thing. I'm going to make it fit so I can see those words there, and I want it to overlap with this one. So I'm going to bring that up, and I can make it smaller. It'll automatically resize to fit. At least that's what it's doing. If I go to the text box of it, I guess it's set to do that, which makes sense, right? So it's there, but I say, hey, you know what? I'm gonna make this be red. I want all my messages to be red so they stand out, and it'll kind of give them a glance of it easily to see, right? These are important messages, okay? And I'm gonna turn on this stage display so you guys can see this work in real time. So I'm gonna go to outputs and let's turn on a stage. And I think that was my default one. And don't need NDI for it. Okay. So we got our stage display here, okay? And you guys can see it there in the corner. I'm gonna pull this window over so everything will be a little bit bigger for you guys to see. All right. Okay, so we got our stage display. And I got a lot going on here. Oh, that's interesting. It pulled that over into there. That's weird. Look at that. I didn't know it did that. Where to pop out the below stuff. That's kind of crazy, kind of cool. Sorry, that's new to me. That's a what? A whole separate column. I never have done that before. Have you guys ever done that? So I know you said this is for if you have a screen for your pastor to read from. Absolutely. And how would you connect that screen to FreeShow? Am I understanding this correctly? Absolutely. So this is a stage display, right? So this is the one that is facing the stage for the people that are on stage. So usually, like I said, I've been in ministries where they've installed these right above. So depending on the layout of the church. So let's say the church, when you first walk into the church, you're coming in from the back row, let's say, and you walk forward down the main aisle and the stage is right ahead. Typically, they'll put it right above that door, that entryway, a big monitor there. A lot of ministries I work with, they'll have a big monitor there for the pastor to not jump in, but to see what's going on, and they can put whatever they want to. Now, the way that works is you've got to have a computer that can support at least two outputs, okay, two displays. So you're going to have, well, I say two, at least three, because you're going to probably have, like I've got a laptop. Sorry about that. I've got a laptop here. So that's one of my displays here. My computer supports two other displays. So I can literally say, okay, I've got my main display showing FreeShow and running FreeShow. But then I've got a monitor here that you can't see that's right above my computer. And then I have, and that monitor would probably count as my main display. At your church, you might have two monitors in the front or a projector that's in the middle and the front. You can do that. But then you might need to have this other TV that's connected to the computer, and it runs to a separate screen in the back, right above the door in some cases. And the pastors and the worship leaders can see that screen, and it'll show them important information like timers, right? It might show them important information like a clock, right? The next slide is going to be there. And so when I go to this one, it shows the next slide. It shows a timer, or the clock, I'm sorry. So it shows what time it is. It shows the current slide information as well. And so all that is there. Let's go back to show, because my current slide should have something on it. Oh, what is that? Did I say current slide? Oh, current slide notes. So I wanted to say my current slide text. Let me change that out so you guys can see that exactly. So pastors may have notes on their slides, which is fine, but I'm gonna take that out. Most typically what you'll do is current slide text. And you just click that one time. There we go. And it pulls it in. There we go. I'm gonna keep that there. I want this text to be there. I'll make this a little bit wider just to keep them in line. Okay, so current slide text. This is what you guys are currently seeing on this screen. Text, variables, and stage display. These are my notes for today's discussion, right? And so I say notes. This is my slide. So this is the current slide text, variables, and stage display. So if your pastor was sharing and they were showing a scripture, that scripture would show up there. So if I go to scripture and I double click there, watch what happens. It shows the scripture. Now it's cut off on the screen because my laptop screen is narrower than my output display. My output display is like a 16:9, but my computer monitor on my laptop is not that. It's narrower, so it's a little thinner. So it's squeezing everything together, so it's overlapping. It'll look, if you got a regular TV, like a regular 4K or HD TV, it'll show up properly. Orlando in the house. What's up, Guru? Oh man, how you doing, sir? I don't know if I'm a guru yet. At least a guru to me means somebody that's like an expert. I'm more of a trainer slash teacher that's growing with you guys. So we're growing in this thing together, man. Welcome to the show. But we're talking about using variables to send special messages to our stage people or people on stage in terms of pastors and things like that. And so what we've got is I got this note that says, "Don't forget the offering." And we got this so that the pastor won't forget, or whoever's making the announcements, they won't forget. And let's see, this does not help me. I'm gonna pull this back over. Okay, so that's as big as it'll get. Okay, so you guys can see that over there. It says "Don't forget" in red. But I'm gonna go down here to my variables, and I got my variables here. I'm gonna pull this up, and at the very bottom of my variables, I've got this option that says "Special Notes." We made that just a second ago, but I'm gonna change that special note to say 5 minutes left. When I hit enter, check out what happens up there. It automatically updates. So you can literally have an open line of communication with those on stage really nice and easily if you wanted to and you had a stage display set up. So your computer would have to be able to support multiple outputs. There's some computers that don't do that, and you would have to buy an additional card. If you're using a Windows computer, a box style computer, you can add an output card or interface card is what they would call it, I believe, in the back, and you can make it to where you can add an additional HDMI output, right? And your computer would read it in the settings. You can assign it in FreeShow to say, okay, that one is going to be my stage display. That's what that would be. So when I go over to my settings for outputs, and let's go to, I'm gonna go to my primary. When I choose the primary output, so right now I've got I got 1, 2, 3 screens available to me. All right. This is my laptop. This is my monitor on my desk in my office here. And then this is actually another display that I'm using for, it's actually mirroring this one right now, but I could use this as a separate output if I wanted to. And this could act like my stage display. I would set that up, and that would be where my signal would go for the stage display. If I were to go to my stage setup, if I go here and I say all that, I want it to go to that additional one, but that additional one, like I said, is mirroring, so it's not really showing up here because it's looking at this as if it's one, but there's really 2 screens here. It's just showing the same thing that I'm showing on my laptop on that additional screen that you guys are seeing, okay? But your computer has to be able to support that extra monitor or display for this to work, for you to have a stage display. That's one of the biggest questions that people might have. And so I made a video about this. I'm trying to think about what the name of that video is about. I think it's called Helpful Tips to Get Started using FreeShow. And I talked a lot about computers. Now, please don't be upset with me, but I don't use Windows computers anymore. Ever since 2006, I haven't used a Windows computer except when I worked in corporate America. And so you can use Windows computers. Like I said, they're a lot more flexible with adding the interface cards where you can expand it. But I also talked in that one about getting Apple computers, right? So I invest in Apple computers just because they're more reliable for me and the work that I do from my own experience from the past. Like, so that was, I don't know, what, 20 years ago now, 22 years ago that I've switched over. But the reality is no matter what computer you use, you can always add an additional display. There are additional devices you can buy from Blackmagic. Blackmagic Design, they have little device cards you can buy and attach those to your computer with a USB. And you can connect it, and your computer will read it as if it is an additional display. And you can send a signal out from that device that's connected to your computer, and you can send a separate signal. So you can always expand it with additional equipment. Okay, so you don't necessarily have to, invest in an Apple computer. You can pay $2,000 for an Apple computer, and you still have to pay for extra stuff for a monitor and all that kind of stuff. But it'll support maybe up to 5 displays, right? Or the Windows computers, some of them can support up to 2 displays, and you can always expand it though. Okay, let's see here. So yeah, hopefully that makes sense. Okay, never thought about that. Yeah. Tell me what you're talking about, Orlando, what you never thought about. Was it about the idea of sending a special message to your pastor or the people on stage? Let me know if that's what you were talking about. But that special notes is down here, so you can literally type in whatever you want to. You can say, hey, dancers are ready, right? Maybe you got special dancers coming in that day, and they're coming to share. The pastors or the speakers or whoever it is, they're going to see that, and you can communicate with them without having to use a walkie-talkie or in-ear monitors and all that stuff, you can type your messages and communicate with them freely. And then if you don't want that to show, you literally can just turn it off. Okay, you can turn it off here, and even it'll show up here, but it kind of got darkened out. You can also just delete that. So I can delete that to make it be completely empty, and so now there's nothing there at all. Okay, and so if I were to, I accidentally started the display. Hold on, let me close it out. Okay, I started, but if I do, let's see if it's anything there now. Yeah, so it'll still show up, even though that's turned off. It'll still show up in your stage display. It'll just be kind of darkened out because it should be a bright red. It kind of turned into a little bit of a faded red. Okay. Arnell said, I believe my MacBook can support 3 outputs. We have a projector using one screen. Okay. And my question is, can I use another screen to stream the lower thirds to the online community at the same time? Absolutely. What I would say is, and that special message thing, okay, that's what you were talking about. You're saying you didn't know about that. Excellent. And I just titled this special message. You can call it whatever you want, just for the record, because I'm not sure when you jumped on, but I just made it be that because that's what we were making. We were talking about, John from Romania was talking about this a couple weeks back, trying to figure out a way to communicate with the people on stage to remind them about offering, because they would always forget. And so I just called it special message, special notes. You can call it whatever you want it to. But yeah, you definitely can. If your MacBook can support 3 outputs. So if it's a MacBook, so if it supports 3 outputs, what kind of Mac? Is it a Max? Is it a M1 Max, or is it a Intel? I'm curious, because the only ones I know that support 3 are the Max. I got a Pro, and the Pros support 2. Maybe the new Pros may support 3. But I'm saying that in terms of 2 external displays, right? So my MacBook Pro can support 2 external. So I've got one on the screen that's built into the Mac, and it can support 2 additional displays, external. And so if you can do that, you got one output designed to go directly to your projector. That's done. When you go into FreeShow, that's your primary, let's call it, right? That's set up. And then you want to use another one for your lower thirds. Now the question is, for your lower thirds, you're sending out to a live stream. Where's your stream? What stream software do you use? Because you may not even need an additional output physically. You can literally just use NDI potentially. But my question is, what software do you use? Okay, gotcha. So you're counting your screen is 1 and then 2 external. Absolutely. Okay, so let me know what is the software you use for your streaming, because you may be able to just use NDI, right? And this is another thing, you guys, when it comes to the capacity or the capabilities of your hardware, your computer, FreeShow is really good. Even with these stage displays, you don't have to have it go directly through HDMI. You could run that to where it's connected to a tablet. That actual TV is connected to a tablet, or that projector is connected to a tablet that's showing FreeShow through the wireless connection or through NDI, and it'll get the same information. Okay, so you're using OBS. So you say, yes, live stream, we use Switcher, but moving to OBS. Okay, so with Switcher, it's been a little while since I used Switcher. I made a video about it a while back, and I got the free trial. With that one, I don't think I needed to use a physical. Definitely didn't use a physical output. I had to use an NDI, if I remember correctly, and then I just made it a green screen. With OBS, though, very cool, because you can use NDI as well, and you would just send that signal to, or you open it up in OBS. And so let me see here. I got OBS down here. And so with OBS, you can definitely send your lower thirds. Let me reopen it. Hopefully it'll open up. Let's say run normally for now. All right, boom. So I'm gonna close that for now. I don't want to get the update. And so right now I've got my primary coming out through NDI right now. So let's see, I got an orange background. Let's turn that off. I've got an ATEM. We can turn that off. And this is what my video would look like. But you know what? Let's do this. I'm gonna show you guys what it would look like if I have, do I even have that ATEM connected? Let's see here. Filters, properties. Yeah, that's not connected, but let's do this one. Okay, that one is connected. Perfect. Okay, so I'm gonna say okay. So I'm switching out this feed here from the ATM, and I'm gonna use my main camera, and I'm gonna change my background though. I'm gonna set up my background to be transparent. Okay, so I'm gonna go back into FreeShow, and we're gonna go to my primary, and we got this option that says transparent for your NDI. I'm gonna turn that on, right? And then when I go to my show, I can turn off the background. So I'm gonna turn off the background here, and check that out. Everything is transparent now. So those little squares represented as see-through. Watch what happens in OBS. Boom. In OBS now, my lower thirds is there, and my camera feed is there as well. All right. And this is what I look like on my wider angle. I think I'm filming in, I don't know, 4x3, something like that. Yeah. So it's not full. It's not widescreen. It's more like a box screen, like old school TV. That's what it's filming in, but it's called Open Gate. So it's filming the full sensor, which doesn't matter. But that's what you can do in OBS, and then you would just have to get your audio to come through, right? And so you would pick an audio feed from your soundboard if you got one to connect directly in to your computer, and just pick that as your settings. And I'm guessing you're familiar with that. If not, that's okay. But you can go to your audio, and your auxiliary audio, you can pick an input for that, where it would come from. If you've got a camera, you can say from your camera and then just run your audio directly to your camera, right? And so for me, then I would say that USB 3 digital audio is where my camera is. And when I select that and hit OK, you'll see now I get this audio feed coming in, and it'll read it for you. You can turn it down in OBS as well. And this would be another program that we need to talk about more, because to me, it's a part of this whole free suite of different things. Let's see here. So yeah. So that's definitely how you would do it in OBS. I love to use OBS. I think it's similar to using like FreeShow in the sense that it's very robust, like I said, and it is reliable. I love the fact that we're getting these opportunities to use reliable software in ministry. That to me is just, it blesses my soul, it blesses my heart to know that that's available, because ministries come in all different sizes, right? So you don't have to be a big ministry that has a big building and a big budget to be able to provide a quality live stream, to provide quality media, period, right? And so a quality media experience, I should say. And so I love that. And that was just using NDI, so you don't need to have a special output on your computer to do that. And you have to make sure that when you go to your NDI settings, if you're going to use a camera, then you turn that transparency on, and then your feed for your live stream. So you would be something like, I'm gonna turn on the stream output for me here. And I got a transparent lower thirds feed there. I'm gonna turn my background back on, and I'm gonna show you exactly what it would be like for your setup if you wanted to have a stage display as well. We'll act like you wanted to have a stage display. And so I'm gonna go here to my video backdrops. I'll see if I can find that same one I just had. It was bubbles or something like that. Oh, from the toolkit. Let's see here. Teal and blue bubbles. Okay, there it is. So I got that there. And let's see here. I need to make sure that my okay, there we go. But I don't want it to be that by default. That's a different template. So let's go to my stage settings. And for my stream, I should say not stage, my stream, I got transparent lower thirds as my style. So I'm gonna go to my styles. I'm gonna look up what the transparent lower third style is. And right now, I've got some overrides. So I got it set to override slides with the template for lower lyrics transparent 2. That's perfect. But this particular slide had a camera feed built into it, so I don't want that camera feed to be there. And it's not in the background, it's actually a part of the slide, okay? And so that's the interesting thing, is that I would have to assign that to be different. So I would make that particular, I would put like an action or something to turn that to where change in-house to lower thirds, let me see if I made a change stream style to transparent lower thirds. Let's see what that does. I'm gonna edit, let's see here. So change output. So it changes my stream to transparent lower thirds, that's fine. And specific, okay, that's all it does. But it's already set to that, so I don't think it's gonna do anything. Yeah, it's already set to that. But this template I'm using has this video built into it. So if I were to make it just be a regular template, like a regular presentation template, let's do this one. All right. So when I click that, you'll notice my lower thirds is here, and it shows it down there, and it's transparent, nothing over it. When I go back into OBS, I would change my my FreeShow input. So I would say plus sign on my what's this? This is a source. So I'm gonna hit the plus sign in the sources. And I'm gonna select NDI source, and this time I'm gonna say FreeShow stream, and I'll say okay. And then you have to pick that particular source. So I actually activated the NDI stream or FreeShow stream option. So I'll turn that on. I'll say okay. And now I turn this one off, and you should see that the FreeShow stream come up. Oh, so the other thing about FreeShow, I mean the OBS is interesting. See how this red box is really big? Like this is the center mark on it. What I have to do is I have to right click on there and go to transform and select fit to screen. And now you'll see my lower thirds showing up there. All right. I can see the lower thirds there because I'm using the stream from FreeShow, but my in-house service is seeing this, my live stream is seeing this, and my pastor is seeing this. Okay. And this is using just 2 outputs from my computer potentially, depending on how you want to do it. This one's definitely coming from the computer. This is the projector that you talked about that you guys have as your main display. And then this would be in FreeShow as well. So anytime you change your slide, all that changes. And in OBS, people will just see the lower thirds. However you set up your lower thirds, you can have it in a box. And my camera, like I said, is not set to widescreen, but I can change that. Let's see. If I go to transform, I can literally, let's see. I'm going to see if I can make it say, I'm going to say fit to screen. And so it's there, but it's still not big enough. I'm going to make it to where it's big because that's how my camera does. Uh-oh. I don't want to do that. I want to select that one. And let's mute this one for now. And so I can literally make my camera widescreen. It's just that my camera feed is unique. Oh. All right, so you guys will be seeing and doing something like this. And I'm just maneuvering this to where to be zoomed in and actually fill the screen. All right, so then we'll turn that back on by hitting the little eyeball, and you will see this. This will be your feed. All right, so let's see here. I've never used OBS before. How you doing, Miss Juanita Snow? Once we start presenting in FreeShow, do we start streaming in OBS? Yes. So you would start your stream in OBS because OBS is actually the live stream. So FreeShow does not currently support like the actual feature of live streaming from itself, but it does allow you to send the output from it to your live stream software, which would be OBS. And so you would go to start streaming here, but before you do that, you would go to your settings, and you would go into your stream settings, and you would pick your output, you know, where you want to send your stream to, right? If you've used OBS before, you probably would know that, but you might say, okay, I'm going to send it to Facebook. It's going to ask you for your default server, your stream key, and you would paste all that information in here ahead of time. So before service starts, you would put that stuff in before you start your live stream, and then you would hit OK. I'm going to just hit cancel for now. Then you would say start streaming. And when you hit start streaming, what'll happen is, so right now I don't have any streaming sets. It'll actually show you the stream, and it'll show you the health of your stream and how long you've been online streaming and all that good stuff, right? Great question. Great question. And then you would go back if you're going to be doing it like lower thirds like this. Once you start the stream, there's not much you need to do in OBS. Once the stream starts, everything is going to be run from FreeShow. So I wouldn't do that. I would just slide back and forth on my computer, on my laptop. I like using my laptop for some reason, but some churches prefer to use a desktop, which is great. But then you would just run your show. And every time you go to a new slide, so this says, what video editor do you use? It automatically shows up, and it's set, right? And so a lot of our world as a media team is going to be based on how well do we plan, and then how well do we prepare. And then once we have a good plan, we implement that plan. You can set that in place, and then you can not necessarily forget about it, but you don't have to worry about managing it real time and tweaking and all that stuff. Once everything is set, I got my audio, I got my video, and I've got my lower third showing up. That's pretty much all I need. I wouldn't fiddle around with anything else in OBS after I do that, since I use FreeShow to send everything. So if I wanted to put a logo, right, I would do overlays. I would go to FreeShow and I would put a logo in. So let's say I'm gonna put my Garry B. Jr. logo in, and there it is. It shows up. This would be your ministry logo. You would put that in there, and it's there, right? And I got it set to where to go away for after 5 seconds. So that's why it disappeared. But it's a little timer set on it. That's a whole nother video that I released maybe a couple of weeks ago about overlay timers or duration or something like that. Really cool feature. If you just right click on it, you can do a display duration on any overlay, and it'll give you an option to change how many seconds it's going to be available or visible. So you can set it and click it one time, and then it'll automatically go off on its own, which is kind of fun, right? Especially for like lower thirds and things like that. Like this one's got a 5-second timer. So if I click that and go over here, it shows my name and it's overlapping here. So don't worry about that part, but it's overlapping, but then in 5 seconds, it just goes away. So when the speaker comes up, you can click that one time and it'll show up and go away, which is a really cool feature, especially for live streams. All right. I forgot what I was saying, but I was saying something. But going back, so Arnell said, so I can do that and have the large scripture at the same time through one computer. Absolutely. Everything that I share on OB in FreeShow, it's all gonna, I'm always recommending you do it all from one computer. And I say that because I'm a one-man band for a lot of the stuff that I do now, because I do everything remote for ministries back in Kansas City where I'm from. But if I had a team, I would probably have somebody assigned to FreeShow to manage the scriptures. And then I would have somebody assigned to manage the soundboard, and then somebody assigned to manage the cameras, if there are cameras, right? And then the person on FreeShow, on their computer, they would set up OBS. They would run that from there. Now, if you say, you know what, our computer is not going to be able to sustain both of those programs at the same time, that's the only time I would add an additional computer in, and that computer would be the live stream computer, and you would still send the signal through NDI from OBS, right? You would just connect the cameras to this computer that has OBS on it, but it'll get the signal from FreeShow wirelessly anyway through NDI, so that won't be any different. It'll just be somebody dedicated to your live stream computer, somebody dedicated to your FreeShow computer. Everything that happens in FreeShow will still be set up exactly the same, okay? Just because it's on a separate computer, it doesn't mean that you don't need to set up a live stream view, a main primary view, and if you want to, and you have the capacity built in hardware-wise, a stage view. You would still use your computer to run all that, but your live stream will be coming from a dedicated computer that would have OBS running on it and nothing else, right? To save CPU usage and GPU usage and all that stuff, you want to have OBS running separate, that's fine. I would say any of the Apple computers, like I said, I'm kind of relegated to Apple computers just because I prefer them. But when you use an Apple computer that's an M1 chip or above, you're going to have no problem usually with the CPU or GPU to manage all these different programs at the same time. Okay. Hopefully that answers that question. Okay, let's see here. Do we have to set fit to screen in OBS every time? You know what? I'm not sure why I have to set fit to screen on my computer every time whenever I do a video feed. And I'm not, let me see. If I go to my settings, when I look at my OBS for my outputs and everything, let's see, for my video, it's set to 1920 by 1080. Now, the issue with, let me see if there's a general option that just says set to, I don't know that you can set it to where it says show confirmation, automatically record, show confirmation, source. Okay, so it's got source alignment and snapping. So it says snap sources to horizontal and vertical center. I don't have mine on for that, but I got it snap sources to other sources. That's an option. Snap sources to edge of screen. And that's there, but I don't know if there's one that just does auto fit. Maybe this would do it. I don't know. I never had that on. But I do have to do that for my video feeds because my cameras record in 6K, 4K, and all that stuff, so I have to make them fit. And then for my FreeShow, I had to do that too, but I thought, let me see, I'm going to go back to my FreeShow settings. I believe it's set to 1920 by 1080 as well. This is my live stream or my stream output. Let's see here. This is style zone. Let me go back to my outputs. Yeah, see, all these are set to 1920, and that's my stream. But yeah, I had to do that, and I'm not going to act like I understand why. I wish I knew, but I can't say for sure. But I do have to do that, so I just simply right-click. So if you have your sources in here, you can right-click on any source and go to transform. And I remember doing this 5 years ago when I was working with another ministry. I would have to hit what is it at? Fit to screen to make it all fit and be in there. Like I said, in that case with the FreeShow stuff, it was lower third, so it looked like it was nothing showing up until I made it fit to screen, and it's there now. You see the red line. When you select your source, it'll give you the red line to show you where it starts and stops, and it's fitting in there just fine. My camera, I had to make it a little bit bigger because it's recording in 6K, which is like a different proportions. It's not 16 by 9 when I do that. All right. Great question. Let's see here. That's it. Wow, man, that's exactly what I needed to learn. Okay, excellent, Arnell. I'm glad you got to see something that's going to be helpful for you. Let me know how it works out. I'm very sincere when I say that. I love to see you all be equipped because I like to be equipped myself. I love to train. I love to be trained. Mr. Gamarez, every time I select styles, FreeShow freezes on me. Have you had any issues like that before? I have never seen that before when you select styles. My question would be, what version of FreeShow are you running? Because if you don't have the latest version, you may just have an old version that does that. And I've not used every version in the past. I started in December with FreeShow, and I think that was like 1.3.4 or 1.3.3 at the time, and now they're on 1.3.9. So check and make sure you got the most up-to-date version. Let me see. In the settings, I don't even know how to tell. When I first open up FreeShow, it gives me that option to show what version you're running in the middle of the screen. I'm sure there's probably a way to see everything. Let me see. Does it show this? It doesn't show you what version you're running unless you first. For me, when I first open it up, and I used to be able to toggle focus mode, and it would show it. There we go. Okay, so I hit that. So I'm running version 1.3.9, and this is the screen that it opens up when I first come into to FreeShow. I'll see this, and I'll see my most recent stuff over here and all that kind of stuff, right? And all I did to do that, I hit view and I hit toggle focus mode a couple times, and that's back working. It wasn't working in 1.3.8, so I wasn't sure. All right. And then Juanita says, I believe the M4 Mac Mini can do up to 3 displays. I believe you are right. The regular M4 Mac Mini, I believe, can do 3, and I think I talked about that in that video I made about helpful tips to get started. Let's see here. And if you're buying a Mac, if you guys are looking for a Mac, I always look for refurbished from Apple, though, right? They actually have their refurbished site, and I showed how to look at those details. I'm gonna pull this down from my other monitor. So I just typed in Mac refurbished. You could type in Apple refurbished. It'll do the same thing. And when I click there, it's thinking about it. My internet's running slow at this time. But then it takes you to all these refurbished deals that they have, and you'll save something, right? This is saving $90. This one's saving $320 on a MacBook Air, right? It's an M3, which is that's a pretty good deal. That's a really good deal. But I go here, so then you can filter it out and say Mac Mini. And so this one right here, this is the M4 chip, just a regular M4 Mac Mini, $500, $509, I should say. You click on it, and then you can scroll down under tech specs is what I would go to, and you'll see the options for display. So display support up to 3 displays. So it simultaneously supports up to 3. And then I got my wife. She's got a Mac Mini M4 Pro, and I don't think it's any different on those. I went too far, but I think the M4 Pros have the same thing. Let me see. If I do Mac Mini again, now I'm just curious. M4 sizes, finish. I don't think it's going to show me. Let's see, M4 chip. I'm looking for the M4 Pro. Okay, here's one with the M4 Pro chip. And I'm curious if it's any different because they're the same exact size device. Display, yes, same thing. Display video up to 3 displays. Okay, so with the Mac Mini, you're still going to need to use your, let me scoot over a little bit. You're still going to need to use your one display for you to manage FreeShow on, and then you would have the 2 additional external displays for you to do pretty much whatever you need to. And with FreeShow, though, it's pretty much unlimited because you still have the ability to do NDI and wireless connections online and all that kind of stuff, right? Let me see what you guys are typing in the notes here. Let's see. And so, yeah, Juanita, I agree. I think that's the case that, yeah, your Mac Mini should be able to support up to 3 displays, including the one that you're using. So that includes the one you're using and then 2 additionals. And then you might use two, right? So you might use two and then send one out to your main display, and then the others are going to be all wireless, which is fine. So Arnell saying, turn off NDI if you don't use it. Yes, that's a big deal. So Mr. Gimerez, if you're not if your computer's slowing down with FreeShow, I made a video a while back called optimizing your performance or something like that on FreeShow. One of the things that the developer team taught me on Reddit, I believe the team that supports that, at least one of them I think is the developer, he was saying if you're not using NDI, turn it off. If you're not using, one of the big ones that I was using was the connections. So I have my connections all active, so these were all on. You can turn those off as well if you're not using them. So I would turn that off. And then if you have in your stage display, there's this not crazy, it's a cool option, but it becomes a crazy problem if you don't manage it, right? So if I go to a blank stage display and I say, hey, I want to show my current slide, check out what happens. It literally shows you the current slide that is on the screen so people can see the actual slide. And I was like, that is the coolest thing I could think of when it comes to using a free program. And so I wanted to use it. I had it set up on all my stuff, and I was having it active down here. And that takes up a lot of performance power, right? So if you're not using that, turn that off as well, along with any NDI stuff. And you should see an improvement when you're trying to get to your styles, for example, if you're not using those. Now, if you are using them, it may be time to look, for one, make sure you have the latest version of FreeShow, but you may need to update and invest in some different hardware from a computer standpoint. And that's just up in the air. That's really up to you to determine and decide. And that's always going to come down to a budgetary question, which only you can speak for that, right? What other questions do you guys have? This is great questions. We talked about the variables in stage display. Has anybody heard of BitFocus Companion? I'm not going to talk about it today just for the lack of time. I got to get to another meeting here in the next 20 minutes. But BitFocus Companion, type in the chat if you've ever heard of it. Excellent. Yeah, definitely check that out, Mr. Gamares, and let me know how that works out. The BitFocus Companion is a really cool feature. I've been working on using it. I've never used it before, but it's more of an advanced feature. To me, it's advanced because I never used it, but it's that learning curve we talked about earlier, where you can set up, I'm trying to think about the best way to put this. I'm going to open up the program. Let me see. Companion. It's an app. Yeah, you can use it with a Stream Deck, but I don't even have a Stream Deck, and I can use it with my tablet. Okay, so you can use it with your tablet, and I'm working on ways to make it useful because it is functional with a lot of the equipment that I use. I'm just pulling it down, so sorry about that glitch. All right, so with this program, the cool thing is, let me see something here. That's HDMI 1. Let me see if I can make that a little bit bigger for you guys. Okay. Matter of fact, we'll do this one so you guys, I can still see that I'm there. All right, so the cool thing about this particular platform is it's free as well. So it's called Companion by BitFocus Companion. And this is what you would use to set up a Stream Deck. And a Stream Deck is literally like a little keyboard that you can use. It just has big square buttons on it. And you can just literally press those buttons to do a multiple of different things. And you would set them all up on this website interface that they have. And so for me, if I go to, not the emulator, let's go to web buttons. That's what I wanted to go to. Okay, so if I go to web buttons, I've made some web buttons, and this is what I've been playing around with. So you guys will see a video. This is like a sneak peek, right? When you guys join in on FreeShow Friday Live, this is what you get to see. The things I've been thinking about and mulling over in my mind. But you literally can manage your FreeShow program from here in terms of going to next slides. These are buttons that were preset. You can go to different projects. This is a preset button that I added to it. You can restore your outputs. You can clear your slides. You can clear all that from a separate device that's on the same network, right? So another computer maybe. Now, the cool thing about FreeShow that I like is you can do all that in FreeShow. You can literally control slides and all that kind of stuff, pick projects from the connections from your phone in FreeShow. If you were to, let's see here, if I go back to FreeShow, if you go to your connections, all that stuff is great from here, right? You can do remote show. You can do control show. You can do that all from your phone or a tablet easily. What you can't do is you cannot set up FreeShow to manage your actions like I did here. So I was playing with a scoreboard. If you guys haven't got to see that, I made it in light of March Madness. In America, we have basketball tournaments and all that kind of stuff in March. I don't watch them very often, but I know that that's a big deal. And I also work with a lot of schools and principals and leaders and things like that. And they got games all the time, right? Volleyball, football, basketball, softball, all these soccer games, all this kind of stuff going on. And I thought, is there a way to use FreeShow to make a scoreboard? And I figured out a way to do it. And I wanted to figure out a way to make the buttons easy to use. And so I made a video about that one. I think it's called Make a Scoreboard in FreeShow or something like that. But what I did is I made a template, and that template looked like this. Okay, let's see here. That looks hilarious. But it was let me pull up the actual piece. I think it's called, here we go, Sports Scoreboard. Okay. And so this is what it looked like, okay, what I set it up as. We're playing the game. This is the game. This is the wide angle camera, whatever it is. And I set up to have a timer for the quarters, to have the score down here, the timeouts, the score on this side, and the timeouts. And this is like the home team and the away team or something like that. And so I went into my functions, and under variables, you can make it to where, okay, I've got timeouts remaining, home timeouts, away score, home score. And then I added the game quarter, the text there like we did for the special notes. That just made this say game quarter, so I can make this say fourth. And what ends up happening is on the screen, it'll say fourth quarter down here because that's a variable that I can type in on my own. But the scores, you can hit the plus and the minus to change the scores. So I can say the away team just got 2 more points, 3 more points, but I wanted it to be like they hit a 3-pointer, right? So I wanted it to just be a 1-click 3-point shot. And in Companion, I can go here. Let's see. If I go to Companion, I can hit that the home team just got a 3-pointer, and in here, it shows that their score is 6 points now. If I go back to Companion, I'm going to add another 3 points to the home team, and the score is now 9 points. It literally interacts real time on the same network, but it allows you to do those kind of functions, which I can't do on the connections settings in FreeShow. I can't add actions, okay? So the Companion app is really cool for something like that I think is really useful, but everybody's not using FreeShow as a scoreboard either. There's a lot of ways to use it. If your church has a sports league or you're part of a sports team or something like that, you might volunteer and be the person to keep score. This would be a cool way to do it, and you can stream that just like you would anything else. You can stream it live. So my OBS is showing. It's a little wonky because I'm using the stream template, but I could change that to be the default template, and I can stream this out, and it'll be the game and the score all real time, okay? I haven't released that template because I don't know if everybody wants to use that, but if you guys want it, let me know. I can make it available on my site as well. Okay, so Arnell says, go to log out. Got to log out, got you. God bless, praying the Lord meets all your needs. Thank you, sir. Renita says, when using a Mac for your stage displays and fellowship monitors, are you using a certain dongle to get your other displays or docking station? If so, what brand? And so stage displays and fellowship monitors. So if you got your fellowship monitors, I'm guessing you're talking about like your primary displays that are in the front of the church, right? What I recommend for those, I'm gonna pull up Amazon. I forget the brand. I'm just call it HDMI splitter. I think it's like Oriyu or something like that. Oriyu. They're some of the most reliable ones that I've used. I'm just gonna here we go. REI. I think that's the brand. I'm just scrolling through on here first to make sure before I show you guys. Yeah, I believe it's REI. Okay. And so for the churches I've worked with, what I've always recommended they do is get some type of splitter. So if you got multiple primary displays in the church, and hold on, let me pull it up. REI. Okay. Yeah, all right. So this would be the brand that I've used, right? So I can recommend them in that sense. Let me just pull this onto here. All right, so this is one I've used quite a bit. This is it'll support up to 4K, 60 hertz or whatever. And what it does is it allows you to put an input. So you do have to power it. So it does have a power. You have to plug it up to a hard, plug in or whatever. But it allows you to put in one input, right? So you got this coming from your computer from FreeShow directly in, and it'll support 4 other monitors. So you can literally send out the same signal to 4 different monitors in your church, okay, or computers, projector, not computers, monitors like TV screens, LED screens, um, or projectors, right? That's typically what you'll see. And so that would be what I would recommend is the REI brand. They're pretty affordable. They got dual, like four-way. They've got two-way splitters. I would always recommend just getting the four-way just for, and I wouldn't get one of these smaller ones. They may be the new, no, that's just another brand. I would get the REI ones. They got smaller ones, but theirs are going to be the two, the 1 to 2. But I would recommend getting a HDMI splitter through REI, or OREI is what they call it. Okay, that's what I thought. Okay, and so get one of those for your primary displays coming from your computer, and then you're gonna usually only have one stage display, right? You would just send an HDMI signal straight from your computer for that typically, and you would run it straight to that TV or that monitor or projector, however you got it set up. You could do some type of intermediary dongle or something like that if you wanted to. Let me see, what's it called? Blackmagic HDMI. It's not called, I don't think it's called a capture. It's something else. Let's see. There's something they create. Let's see, a converter. No. I have to look into it again. But it allows you to make your computer have that additional output if you need to. But you could do this. You could just do a HDMI to HDMI piece to where it's not so much strain on your computer. Let's see here. HDMI to HDMI. They make something like that. Let's see here. That's a micro converter. I don't see anything here. You could do something like this, like just another ORIU extender, right, to where you can plug in your computer to this and then have it output from there to the monitor. That would be fine as well. But that's something to consider based on the strain on your computer. You don't want, if you got a desktop computer, like you said, you got the Mac Mini, you would need to get a just a regular USB converter. So let's say HDMI to USB-C adapter, because it'll support it anyway. So you can get, they're pretty cheap. You just get something like this, $8, $9, and you would actually have this plug into your computer, and then have this connect to the stage. You have the HDMI connect there, and you'll be able to send that signal out. And I use those as well. I got one somewhere. Look, I don't know where it is right now, but I usually have it in my drawer. I don't know where I put that thing, but I've typically used those, the cheaper ones like that, for my computer now, my MacBook Pro, and they work just fine for sending out that signal, right? So you would need one. You got one HDMI already in the back of your computer, so for your other outputs, you would need a couple of these if you're going to send out two separate signals physically, okay? And these, I don't necessarily have a brand that I'm tied to. Anchor's a pretty reliable brand, so you can use something from them if you wanted to. But I usually just, believe it or not, I go in here and I find the cheapest one, but I also look at the reviews. When I'm on Amazon, that's typically where I'll find this kind of stuff. I'll look at the reviews of it. As long as it's not a poor review, I'm fine. And I'll look at, the hertz. I prefer for it to be 60 or above. Some of them might be lower than that. You might stay away from those because they might start to look weird on your screen. But yeah, any of these individual ones. I wouldn't pick one of these like this to connect to your computer that does that. That's just kind of not weird, but I would pick one of those ORIU ones. They'll be more reliable for being that, because this is a HDMI adapter, USB-C. It's 4-time monitor converter for Windows. Yeah, it doesn't even support Apple anyway. These don't, because they don't support all those different screens. So that's the main thing. But Blackmagic Design does have something. I just forget what it's called right now, where they have a device, a little device that allows you to, if you don't have enough screen support, you can plug this into your computer and it'll make it like you got another monitor that you can support. Okay. All right, you all. Thank you all for joining in. Like I said, it's been a fun time, and we've been playing around with all kind of fun stuff. I'll be working on something that Bitcoin Companion, a BitFocus, I call it Bitcoin. The BitFocus Companion is more of an advanced feature, but I think it's worth it. I think it's a really good feature to use if you need the mobility or the flexibility to do multiple things. Because I've got, for example, like an ATEM switcher, so I can literally tie buttons to my companion app, this website, that do two things at once. So I got this right here. This button right here, when I click it, let's go back. I'm going to go to the settings. Let's see if it shows what it does. It does not. Let me go here. And so under my buttons, this particular camera 1 button, it does two things. It switches to camera 1, but in FreeShow, it actually pops up my logo, and it also clears the current slide, and it clears the current background, all in one button press. That's the beauty of using the Stream Deck or just the companion website interface, right? You can use that on a tablet or something like that. Just log into the website, and it's just up here, it's just whatever the IP address is. You can do that, and you can push one button to change 3 or 4 different things on multiple different pieces of equipment or programs. And that's what I liked about it. It combined my actions from my switcher and my actions in FreeShow together with one button press. And I was like, oh, I like that. I like that a lot. And you'll be able to go through, you can go through and try to find other connections. Like it works with OBS. You can use OBS with that companion app to do multiple things at once as well. I just don't use OBS a lot anymore. But if I were to make a button, I can make that button do something in OBS by scrolling down here and adding a press action. So I can go here and I can say, okay, I want to look for all the OBS actions. And you can put in, you can make it pause recording. You can do all kind of restart the media, refresh the browser source. Any of these presets you have that they have in here, you can select those. You can also make some of your own as well. You can stop your output, all kinds of fun stuff. All with one press in that companion program. So you can make a press that changes something in FreeShow, something on your switcher, and something in OBS all at the same time. So boom, one time, one push, and it does that. And so in the actions piece right here, you can tie certain actions and variables. That was a big deal to me. That was a really big deal to me to be able to do that, because that's what I would recommend if you wanted to use FreeShow as a scoreboard. This would be the way to go. And you make a button for timeouts and all that kind of stuff. And a volunteer could easily just, oh, they hit a 2-pointer, they just click 2. They hit a 1-pointer free throw, you click 1. And it's that simple, and it's really easy to set up to be user-friendly. That's what I liked about it. But FreeShow, the more I use it, the more user-friendly it becomes. And you all are growing with me, and we're growing together to understand how to use it even more. And so you'll see more advanced things coming out. Let me know in the chat, like I said, as you guys communicate, what questions you might have in the comments on other videos and things like that. But I'm here to help equip you to see you thrive and see your ministry. My wife and I were talking. She's like a brand design, graphic, brand manager and all this kind of stuff. And she's like, small church, big media or something like that was an idea. Like I love the idea of having media that is at a high quality, no matter what size ministry you have, no matter what size organization you have or business you have. Having high quality media and technology is something that we all have access to. Sometimes it can be pricey and expensive, but with FreeShow, it doesn't have to be. And I love that. I love that. All right. Love Life Digital Media. Excellent, man. Yeah, so check it out. Check it out. If you're not, like I said, Juanita was talking about the fact that a lot of people use the BitFocus Companion with a Stream Deck. I didn't buy one yet. I may look into getting one later, but I have all kind of stuff. I got a soundboard on my desk, a switcher on my desk. I got a YOLO box and all this kind of stuff. So I don't want to add any more equipment, but I do have an active tablet already. So I just logged into that IP address on my tablet, and I had the same interface like it was on a Stream Deck. So you can do that if you already have an iPad laying around or an Android device laying around. You can do that, or even run it from another computer. It's really cool. All right. Thank you guys again. I got to go to get to another meeting, but in the meantime, be blessed, and we'll look forward to connecting next time. Talk to you later.